Good afternoon. Well, I'd like to welcome the panellists on stage, starting with Paul Carroll, Chief Revenue Officer at AirAsia.
Hey, Phil. How are you?
Paul. Hi, Paul. Jonathan Newman from Ancillaries. Welcome, Jonathan.
Hey, Otto.
Shimi Abismil from Fetcher.
How you doing? You doing all right? We're good. Yeah.
And Aboudy Nasser from Oman Air, the Chief Commercial Officer. Hey. And Arvid Fontamulan, Chief Commercial Officer, Saudia. Hi. So, we have a very esteemed panel. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all in the audience for coming. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to start off by probably introducing, everybody's well known, but probably the newest company is the least well known, I can say that. And maybe Shimi, you can say a few words about what it is you do and what it is your company does, and why you're here.
Thank you. Shimi Abismil, CTO and co-founder of Fetcher. Fetcher is an Israeli algo trading company that created an AI-based pricing system. We predict demand curves and then optimize the pricing on top of that. What differentiates us is that we come from a background of algo trading and trading systems. Algo trading systems is systems that automatically trade the stock exchange. And we have 3 customers, one of them is top 5, and we're just getting started.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan, Ancillaries, well known, but maybe you can refresh us.
Reasonably well known, thanks Otto. So Ancillaries has gone through quite a significant transformation over the last 3 years. So Ancillaries was bought out by Vista. So Vista is a private equity company based out of New York that deals primarily in enterprise SaaS. As part of that transaction, Ancillaries purchased Fairlogics. And the reason why Vista was so keen on bringing together Ancillaries and Fairlogics was to establish to establish expertise in offer through to order through to sell. So looking at every single area of the airline technology
It's not
stack
enough
and bringing
for
together in
decades.
Ancillaries plus 70 airlines and decades of experience in revenue accounting and revenue and passenger accounting, and with the Fairlogics suite of NDC and merchandising capability, it's really now an opportunity for Ancillaries to challenge the status quo in the way that airlines manage their technology.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Mike works.
Speaking of technology, there's a microphone.
I'm not going to have to do that all again.
Well, I'll ask the audience, so does he have to do it again? No. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Shimi. So I'll start off with Arvid, Chief Commercial Officer from Saudia. Huge airline, huge country, huge transformation. Saudi Arabia 2030. What technologies, we're going to be talking about all sorts of, we're going to talk about how to make money and how these gentlemen make money for their airlines, supported by the technology provided by the likes of these gentlemen. And I'll be asking the questions. So, Arvid, can you tell us about what's happening in Saudi Arabia and how technology is supporting you, the airline, how the airline is supporting that vision using AI and anything else that's currently on vogue?
Yeah, we are a classic legacy airline, so with all the issues you have, but I think we are on a mission now, and as I said before, I think the train has left the station for us in becoming a real modern, data-driven airline. And technology is key for it. So, you have to somehow disconnect from the legacy to a certain extent, and start building new. And if you don't have the foundation, you don't need to talk about AI. If your data is not, in order and you don't have quality data, to base any functionality on top of it. So key for us was getting the base right, getting the data lake right, ensure that the data is there in the right quality and you have all the models built up. And then on top of that, then you can build, the functionalities to make money. So at the end of the day, you want to empower your staff, you want to empower your people, front of the guest to make the right decisions, have the right amount of information in front of them, and allow them to make decisions. You also want that the guests have, all the technology, So before they go to a colleague, they should actually do it by themselves via technology. So technology for us is key. As you said, it's making money. It is also increasing efficiency and reducing cost. It is also increasing customer satisfaction, so the whole guest experience, digital plays, a key role. And it is how you combine all that and make it work. So you need to create an ecosystem that allows you, to trial, test out, see what works, integrate, listen to the customers, and then scale up quickly.
And with that new technology, there's also a human element. How does the human transition work, or how are you helping to blend the technology with the human element?
Well, for us, at the beginning, when you start, it's like, okay, will I be replaced by a machine? So it's like, there might be certain workflows where that is the case, but for us, it is not a process where we try to reduce stuff with technology. Technology should help our staff and our colleagues to make better decisions. And there are jobs that we didn't have before. I mean, we are hiring now data analysts, mathematicians, and different skill sets, that you need, to run all this. So there might be a shift, but I don't think that overall it will reduce the number of stuff significantly. There might be areas where that is the case, but there are other areas where it will increase. So for us, it is really how we can increase customer satisfaction, how can we make more money, rather than reduce cost with technology.
Thank you, Arvid. Paul, you're not a legacy airline, but you have a network and you have data. What sort of data do you have, and how does that support you in your network decisions, or how are you doing what Arvid is doing with a completely different base, foundation, and airline structure?
Yeah, I think in the AirAsia example, if there was any positive to come out of the pandemic, the downtime allowed us to really revisit our technology in the revenue management world. So we got the support to go to market. And one of our pain points in the revenue management space was we just didn't have real-time data. So, during the pandemic, we were able to replace our technology, invest in that real-time booking data. And I think in testament to the management of the company, much prior to COVID, we invested heavily in the data science space. We have a partnership with Google. Management have hired data scientists to support our world. So I think, we have very, very rich booking data now to support all our pricing, forecasting, and optimization decisions, which has really helped us coming out of COVID because obviously booking curves have changed. Things are much more compressed now. So I think we've invested early, and I think that has been supported, which has allowed us to really optimize our revenue in the short term. Okay.
Well, Shimi, I'll turn to you and I'll ask a question. What is AI doing to help the likes of Saudia and AirAsia, two very different airlines? But how is AI forecasting the demand for not only where to fly to and where there's passenger demand, but what services passengers would like to be purchasing? What we call ancillaries.
So I think we are at the stage where AI actually already taking decisions, so not just guiding and recommending. We can see in features production system that where the analyst actually gives the freedom for the AI to take the decision to publish automatically the prices, there's greater uplift than the one that the manually is done. And the same with the uplift, the same with the bags, for example. The AI can automatically price the bag fee 3 times a day and can publish the fares, can publish it to the distribution. So I think the more time will pass, the AI will actually take more decision, will be more autonomous, and will actually do the decisions by themselves.
Okay, thank you. Aboudy, you've transformed Oman Air. You know, it's unfortunately I see your successes when I look at the data of the passengers you carry from Europe to Thailand. But what are you doing to differentiate yourselves, not to be a commodity, to decommodify what everybody has the same tools, everybody has access to the same data. There's many brilliant suppliers. What are you doing to be able to keep Oman Air different and continue along that success that you've had?
Thanks, Otto. And we hope to continue that success with.
Oh, wow.
Look, if you just take the definition of a commodity, it's essentially selling the same product at one price. Mm-hmm. And what we see now in terms of the transparency that customers have, they now have transparency to fares that they've never had before. So when you look at two things, one, the ability for customers to see fares and have the transparency of fares, that puts pressure on the airlines to start fare matching. Now, alongside of that, you have a more sort of higher-level demographic change. When you ask a millennial what makes their decision to fly, it's not, I want a lovely seat, or I want a nice steak for my dinner on board. It's literally, how do I go from A to B? Quickest, simplest, cheapest way. So that leaves a problem for legacy airlines, because those legacy airlines are investing millions and millions of dollars to produce fantastic quality product, fantastic quality service. But in the end, that gets commodified. A business class seat on the Thai Airways is going to be very similar to a business class seat on an Emirates. So what have you got left to decommodify? And to me, airlines shouldn't be selling a seat. They should be selling an experience. And what we're lucky in Oman Air, and is being a national carrier of Oman, is we have a unique proposition in Oman. There's thousands of years of history, uniqueness within the country that we bring on board our aircraft. So when you come on board our aircraft, you get a frankincense suite. Well, frankincense is originating from Oman. So it's the experience that people are going after. It's not the seat. And if we can bring that out to the market and say, the moment you step on an Oman Air flight, you're essentially experiencing Oman, that's how you decommodify, because there's no other way of doing it.
Okay. So what we've been seeing or hearing, to various capacities, and maybe post-COVID it's not always the case, but millennials want instant gratification, booking cycles are shorter. Jonathan, so that leaves less time to interact with the passenger from booking when we know, who they are, where they're going, and what else we can try to sell them. Ancillaries. So what's Acelia doing to support airlines in that shorter period of time for higher conversion?
Well, it comes back to partly the conversation that Aboudy's talking about commodification, and because when you look at an airline's one airline's A320 is similar to another airline's A320 with a 29 to 30-inch seat pitch. And so, and again, as Aboudy was saying about the transparency of pricing, for airlines to really be successful financially, they need to be able to compete on that base price and then to continue to sell and to act much more as retailers than they ever have before. Airlines like AirAsia have really been third time lucky. And so airlines like AirAsia have really been paving the way here, and they've been providing this path to take for a lot of legacy or national carriers that really want to be able to get in on this retailing act. So as an example, one of the things that we've been doing is been providing airlines with the ability to merchandise much better than ever before. So being able to take that base price and then to be able to dynamically create bundles which are going to be more relevant, more meaningful for that particular cohort of customer. And again, a lot of this can be done, and has been done already, but doing it at scale, being able to do it from different marketplaces for different cohorts across the entirety of a network such as Oman Air or such as the Lufthansa groups is really difficult without that technological support and being able to take the data which the airline has and then to use it properly in determining what those dynamic bundles should be.
Okay. Well, Arvid, your airline is very customer-centric, a traditional airline with a very, very rich heritage. Now, there's so much data out there, and in my experience, the biggest problem with data is, once we have it, what do we do with it, and what actions we can take. Now, Jonathan mentioned that they use the data, to help, make these decisions to push whatever it is we would like to sell to the customer. In your view, what's missing in the airline industry, not just at Saudia, but at large, to be more customer-centric? So what type of data would really help the customer, the airline, monetize things? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that it's a difficult question, but it's the right question to ask. What are we missing? I think we have a lot of data. The question is the data usable, and what actions come out of that data? So we found out we had 3 different data pods where we store customer data with different customer profiles. And then that's difficult. So we are now consolidating it, into one data lake. All the customer profiles standardized, make sure that we get it right. So again, if the basis is not correct, whatever you want to do on top of it will be suboptimal. So clean this first, and then we want to go into this hyper-personalization. It's another buzzword, sorry to use it, but we try to understand the customers and slice and dice the customers, not only in high-level gender and age, but really be relevant with your information, at the right time, send the right information. When we know that this person is booking the holiday within the next 2 weeks for their family with 3 kids, so you bundle it, the right way and send a message that makes sense for them and not kind of shotgun. Even if it's a bundle, but if it's kind of shotgun, we send 3 bundles out to 100,000 people. It's nice, but it's not individualized. It doesn't show care because, I don't care who you are and in which state you are. I just send you an offer now. It's a nice offer, but it's just, it's not personal. So we need to come to that. And of course, people can't do that. I cannot have 100,000 people who are sending out every day 2 offers, highly individualized and created. So we need technology to help us to do that. ChatGPT is another buzzword, unfortunately, but just the content creation, and individualize really the content and send that out, could be helpful. So we are looking for the right, partners, to enable us to do that. Unfortunately, being a legacy airline, there is still a lot, that we need to overcome, a lot of hurdles in order to do that.
Aboudy, I'll ask you the question, because we've got all this data, and as Arvid said, that we want to present something that's relevant to the customer. But at the end of the day, as Arvid was saying, family, 3 kids, $100 difference, family of 5, that's $500, so it's a big difference. So no matter how good everything else is, that's going to be a crucial criteria. Now, you kind of want to be matching what your competitors are matching. How is fair matching evolving? Because you still, at the end of the day, that is still one of the key, or the key differentiator in the purchase decision. What are your views there? Where were we and where are we now, and where do you think it's going?
So I'd like to address that, and I'd like to also add to what
Yes.
David was saying. So let's start with the fares.
Okay.
So I remember being on a panel about 1.5 years ago. It was a Kappa panel, and it was all about loyalty. And had loyalty experts from all the different airlines were sitting around the panel, and the moderator was asking them, okay, so tell us about your loyalty program. And everyone was talking about how they understand the customer, and they know the customer, and they know when the customer's going to do this, and they know when the customer's doing that. That's all great, but that's just fundamentals. That's not where utopia is, right? But just to sort of conclude the story, so they came to this person I know, and they said, tell us, and he was with Indigo in India. And they said, tell us about your loyalty program. And he said, you know what? I've got the best loyalty program in the world, and it's called price. It wasn't being fancy about anything, it was just price. And so yes, when you have large family groups, $100 difference in fare is going to make a difference. There is an element of getting the fundamentals right with loyalty and understanding your customer and what Arvid was saying, but there's a higher level, I think, utopia that we should all think about getting to, and I'm not sure airlines will ever get there. You know, a few years ago, I think somebody asked Jeff Bezos, you know, what's your vision for Amazon? And he said, you know, I want to know what the customer's going to buy before the customer knows what they're going to buy. So the question is, will airlines ever get that way? Sure, we can invest in data scientists and have roomfuls of PhDs trying to put this together. But reality is, we're not a tech company, we're an airline, we fly airplanes. So how do we get to that utopia? Maybe Shimi can help.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing.
Well, that's a good segue, but I have to make a correction there, Aboudy. I remember the panel very well. It wasn't one
we
and a
were
half
together,
years.
wasn't it?
It was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a while.
Aboudy's excluding COVID there, I think.
Oh, yeah, yes, if you take that out, then yes. Yeah. So Shimi and Jonathan, I'll ask you guys the same question. So what are you doing? So AI is going to tell me what I want tomorrow without me even knowing today?
Yeah, I mean, basically what we're doing is we're building demand curves that we know the demand per price point. So we know for those family of 5, how many people will buy at a specific price point. And then we can optimize the pricing and tell you what's the optimized fare ladder. So we can build a fare ladder and optimize the prices for it. Now, what we see from our customers, right, there are airlines that are still doing manual fare matching, okay? And there are some with automatic tools that match the prices. But we identified that there's still problem, even if you have automatic tools to match the prices, that you see airlines that have problems reacting or adapting to changes in the markets. So if there's a specific OD that moved to a different competitive strategy, it will take them days to identify it sometimes. So our engine actually 24/7 scan the competition, scan the network, and if there's a change in the competitive landscape, it will notify and will actually change the strategy.
Yep. Paul, you guys fly like a typical low-cost carrier to many O&Ds that other airlines don't fly direct. So there's no fare matching. You come up with the fare. What do you base that on? Because I've heard that AirAsia wants all of us to fly, so you just put the cheapest below cost price out there so I can fly, or what logic do you use?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's correct. We have a lot of unique routes within our network, but obviously many of those routes are quite seasonal, so they do need a certain level of price stimulation. So, I mean, we will work across the commercial ecosystem to really, build up the base load, make sure our booking curve is in line with, our internal budgeting, and then we will, we'll look to obviously make money on these routes. But end of the day, the seasonality plays a big factor there. So, we'll see big swings in our seasonality, even on unique markets. So the way we play that is we'll typically look to manage capacity that way as well. So, I mean, unique markets doesn't necessarily translate into profitable markets. But, I mean, it's really keeping an eye on your booking curve through available data within the ecosystem.
Jonathan, what can we learn, or what can legacy airlines learn from low-cost airlines, especially in the ancillary space? So we all want to sell them, and we kind of do, but what are the big blockages to success?
Well, firstly, it's about getting...
So that we can have those low fares as well, and then we can get the money back via ancillaries.
Well, if you take most big legacy carriers, they don't have the same direct sale penetration as AirAsia have. I mean, it's typically between 50 and 80% of the volumes that they transact are coming through the GDSs. They're coming indirect, they're coming via a middleman. And one of the major problems that airlines have is not creating the price for the ancillary. Most airlines file ancillary prices through ATPCO, and they're available for sale through the GDS. It's just that the GDS wasn't designed in such a way for those ancillary prices to be displayed with anything more than simply just it is a bag or it is a seat. And you certainly can't apply any form of dynamicism to it. So what we've been doing with many airlines is, and again, taking the lead from the LCCs is doing two things. Firstly, providing airlines with a way to be able to bypass those GDS connections using NDC. And the second way is by applying merchandising techniques. So in the same way that AirAsia and many other LCCs do, by applying even just basic rule-based dynamic pricing to seats and bag prices, can improve incremental revenue significantly. And these are small things that don't actually require huge amounts of change management. I mean, a lot of the things that my colleague was talking about from Fetcher, Shimi, that a lot of this requires a lot of change management, not just within the RM and commercial space, but all throughout the business. You also need to be able to service all of these dynamically adjusted products as well. So even with simple rules-based dynamic optimization of seats and bag prices that are delivered outside of the GDS, airlines, legacy airlines can start to make incremental revenues along the lines of what LCCs have been doing for a long time. And again, by doing that, you can start to apply downward pressure on the base airfare.
Shimi, you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I can relate to what he said. And I think when we established Fetcher, when we built Fetcher, we actually somehow got into the aviation vertical. I don't know if it was the right decision, but we're here. And one challenge, right, that was in front of us was actually that we wanted to create a simple onboarding process without coming in and a 2 years project and replacing any infrastructure, because that would be a big problem for the airline and for us. And we actually achieved it. So we're coming and piggybacking on top of your infrastructure, and you don't need to do anything in your infrastructure. It's a very simple onboarding process. You give us 4 or 5 file types. A few weeks later, you have an on-cloud AI-based pricing system. So,
okay, thank you. Aboudy, you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, just to make a point here. I think it's something that you started to raise earlier when we were starting to talk about technology, right? When I joined Oman Air a year ago, I think we already had NDC. We had NDC for 5 years. We were one of the first adopters of NDC. But when I came in, I just saw it, and it was just a piece of technology. And I think the trap that airlines could fall into, that they need to be very careful about, is, once again, do not become a technology company. For me, when I joined, the first thing I did was I binned the old NDC provider, and actually we just signed with Excelia. Why? Because it isn't about implementing NDC. That's just a technology. Technology is an enabler. It's people that make the change. So when we entered into the new NDC world with Excelia, in the new world, it wasn't an NDC introduction. It was a sales transformation program. Because ultimately, if you don't have your people on board, understanding not the technology, but what the technology can do for them to enable them to sell better, that is what airlines need to be thinking about. It's the human side is far more important. The CRM technology that we're buying is not about CRM. It's about how can the human that we have interacting with the customer, and you always will need a human interaction, right? Can give a better service to the customer using the technology that's enabled. So it's the people is the key.
I couldn't agree more, Aboudy, with the points that you make, but technology is a means to an end, and airlines make lousy technology companies.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, many try to and fail. Arvid, you'd like to add, but Arvid, I'd also like to ask you a question. I want to ask you, once you've added what you want to add, what's NDC enabling at Saudia?
Let me first comment on this one. So I fully agree. That's why we try not to have a digital department. Digital should be something that goes across in the whole organization. Everybody should embrace, and have a basic understanding of digital, because if you're in a department, you need to be able to formulate your requirements towards digital. If you cannot do that, then you have a digital silo that is not helping anyone. So it is about the people, and it is about training and bring them towards this technology, and they need to understand it in order to evaluate, does it make sense for me to integrate this or not? So that's number one. Number two is, airlines are notorious, I mean, it's a complex business we are in the first place, and we are notoriously making it also complicated on top with our processes. So if technology is capable, of making it simpler, and simplify things, and make it clear, and standardize things, that is a great help already on a very simple basis, To just integrate a technology, to have a marketing gimmick out and say, well, we have this great thing, but, 2 people are leaving the company, they were trained, and then nobody knows it, and it's... It's there, but nobody works with it. It's not integrated. Now it's a huge problem. So it's a two-sided sword, But do I want to become a tech company? No, but I want to be a digital savvy, and technology-oriented airline, that operates plane in a safe way, but that also delivers a customer service, And my customers in Saudi, more than 60% of the Saudi population is below 30 years old, It's very digital savvy, I mean, if we make a mistake in the app, anything, social media goes berserk, So I get immediate feedback from my clients, if anything is wrong. So they're extremely, digital. So what was your other question? NDC enabled?
Yeah,
Yes.
what's it? I mean, we've been talking about it for 12 years, so, I'm still trying to see, the value match for hype. And maybe you've seen it.
I think NDC is not it shouldn't be a hype. I think NDC should be kind of a standard, and I think we have to go away from the hype and again, we are NDC, I don't know what. You need to find out the way how you want to use it. And I think airlines should use it because you need to direct connect. Even if you want to go to offer order management, NDC is kind of a prerequisite that you need to have. So I think every airline has to look at it now with a broader business case, make it part of the strategy and implement it in a sensible way, maybe with a test case, see how that goes, and then like a stone thrown in a lake and see, where the waves going. So for me, it's not a do you do it or not? For me, it's like when do you do it and how do you do it in the best way?
Well, I think the how is very important. Maybe the when, I mean, it's been
every
over
airline
a decade.
is different.
And Jonathan, my views on NDC, maybe you can share yours and convince me otherwise.
Well, I think Otto would maybe kind of expand on what Arvid was saying. When we talk to the airlines for the first time around distribution, around merchandising, around retailing capabilities, the first question we ask is, what is your objective for this? Because it can't just be to implement a new standard, to implement a new piece of technology. There has to be a measurable objective for what it is they're setting out to do. Now, in some cases, that might be cost efficiencies. In a lot of cases, though, in most cases, it's about new revenue. So it's about being able to do what we just talked about a moment ago, which is starting to emulate some of the things that LCCs have been doing really well for a very long time. And that's being able to put more personalized offers in front of customers, which are meaningful, relevant, and ultimately will drive up the customer's willingness to pay. And thirdly is around the third most often used objective, is around customer transformation. It's around customer service transformation, being able to do things that you just can't do when you're distributing through a GDS. When, take a perfect example, the Lufthansa Green Fares that they've just launched, they're only available direct and through NDC, because there's no other way that you can put that information in front of a customer, in front of a travel seller, unless you're using some form of rich content and delivering more to them than simply a fare and an availability. So those are the typical kind of objectives that airlines have when they're doing this. And when you look at airlines in North America, and American is a great example of this, that have come out now and said, they're going to be 100% EDIFACT free very, very soon.
So they're still going to display even certain low fares within the GDS environment, but you won't be able to book them. So if you're a travel seller in North America now, and you depend on your access to content from people like American and United, very soon you've got to get on board and you've got to do that, because American know that in order for them to improve their return to their shareholders, they have to deliver better product, better content to their end consumers, and the only way they can do that is by doing it outside of the GDSs.
Yeah. Well, Aboudy, I think in your case, you're not in as privileged a position with your domestic market as American Airlines is, if I'm not mistaken. Now, you've said that you have successful outcomes thanks to the enablement of NDC. What about the servicing questions around NDC? Has that hampered the success in any way?
Look, servicing, and our old NDC provider, we were doing all the servicing ourselves, which was an absolute nightmare. To be honest, I don't think any of the NDC providers have got it right in terms of servicing. So that's still a question mark to the level of servicing that needs to be done. There's stuff that the agents can do, but there's other things that are still not quite as customer-orientated or service-friendly as what they need to be. But Johnny could probably tell you a bit more about that.
Okay. And Arvid, what about at Saudia? Because servicing and, it's a high-touch airline, a lot of your passengers are very demanding. How do you see the lack of service capabilities with NDC as a risk?
Well, the good news is we have no experience. Because we started before the crisis, and then we straight went into the crisis, and all our partners are not there anymore. So we are basically in the comfortable position to analyze it now and start fresh.
Okay. Paul, with your varied networks to various markets, and you rewrite your network maybe more frequently than Oman Air or Saudia with these O&Ds that are uncontested, so a little bit of trial and error. What is AirAsia doing around customer loyalty and trying to keep customers interested? So what are the 2 or 3 things that you would highlight?
Yeah, I think, look, I was speaking to the gentleman earlier in terms of what is network planning now. There's no such thing as long-term network planning in the current environment. I think anything beyond 30 days is considered long-term. So I think, look, I think Tony touched on it on his keynote this morning, where we are a marketing-driven company. Where I think I think the marketing ladies are in the crowd there. There's not a day where we're not on sale. So we're continuously trying to stimulate the market through low fares, driving our ancillary business. That is kind of changing as well, because we do offer sale periods 12 months in advance. But what we've really noticed in terms of our demand coming out of COVID is 85% of that demand is coming within 30 days to departure. So I think it was Barra was on stage from Jetstar earlier. It's whether that demand is even stimulatable further out to departure. So I think, will that maintain coming out of COVID? The question, it's unanswered. So I think, we're very clear in terms of our, low fare proposition, and we will continue to offer that. But the booking curve has completely compressed, and we're not seeing any signs of that changing in the short term. So, I think it goes back to my point earlier, having that technology and having those tools available to not just the revenue management team, the network planning team, to be able to make those smart capacity decisions, to be able to make that, pricing decision. And I think at the moment, having a really smart revenue analyst to analyze that data and to make pricing decisions coming out of COVID with the technology we've invested in has been absolutely pivotal coming out into this recovery period. So, but what remains to be seen, how compressed this booking curve will be and for how long.
Yeah, thanks. Shimi, so you're from outside of the industry, if I'm not mistaken, and I saw you smile when he said high speed and quick decision making. Can you tell us how you see that? You know, are we as an industry just very slow, or 30 days is that a long time, slow time? Because you've dealt with you've been in other industries, finance and otherwise, that retail over the internet, direct to consumers. What are your views there?
Yeah, so we come again from financial industries. I used to work milliseconds level, and my partner was the chief of AI. He was in algo trading, and he was up to nanoseconds, and then we came to aviation. Even a short booking window of 30 days, what you guys call, there's still a lot of data that you need to process on a daily basis in order to optimize the pricing. So for us, the engine is built to price, I don't know, a few times a minute if needed. It's not supported by the industry, but even on a daily basis, or a few times a day, so the engine is ready to do it. We currently support the infrastructure, whatever ATPICO or other legacy or LCC support, so we kind of adapted ourselves to the aviation industry.
Okay. Arvid.
So for us, I agree what Paul said. I mean, all the historic data is not usable. I mean, to forecast is very difficult. On top, we have the specific issue, challenge is we have built a Jeddah hub. We haven't had a hub before. So now we see transfer traffic we have never seen in the past. We have integrated an e-visa in our booking flow. So now, guests can come to Saudi in a very simple process. My ticket is my visa. You just book, click, fill some out, some questions, you can come into the kingdom. At least 51 countries, pass holders of 51 countries can do that. We have never seen that in the past. So for us, it's not only the recovery out of the crisis, we have so many things that influence at the moment the booking behavior that we go basically day to day. We are just blocking the peaks, the known peaks, make sure that we protect those, and the rest is really week by week, day by day, to sit and hands-on and manage it. It's a lot of demand right now, so it's a nice problem to have. I'm really not complaining, I have to say. No. But it is, we are going through a learning curve, because when we planned the hub, the top 10 O&Ds we forecasted, not one of those is in the real actual top 10 O&Ds. So it is really, the demand comes from all corners, and from partially very surprising O&Ds that we are seeing, so it is really a good thing to do, but we need to be very careful how we manage it. That's why we are very hands-on at the moment, to really try to steer as good as we can between third force traffic and connecting traffic, and keep the seats in high season for some Saudis, because the fares are higher there.
Well, with these surprising O&Ds, O&Ds and traffic flows that you've never had before. And we speak a lot about how other retailers on the internet sell, and that brings me to continuous pricing. How do you continuous price? Can you manage it when you're building a hub like that, when you're seeing O&Ds you haven't seen before, when possibly the O&D is uncontested or not very contested? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, when you build a hub, you see logic O&Ds, and you're saying, okay, you look in past data and saying, okay, roughly that's our forecast. But then we realize, that we had suddenly huge traffic flows for O&Ds, where it's a 4 hours, transit time, and we would have thought, okay, that's much less demand. So it is very seasonal. I've never seen a hub like Jeddah, in the world that has such a strong season. So the highest demand months and the lowest demand months, that can be up to 80% difference. So it's very difficult to scale up and down an airline, the capacity, when you're such a seasonal market. And then the two calendars are also merging, So you have the Gregorian calendar and the, religious calendar, and they're moving. So we have these super peaks now, where school holidays coincide, with also religious days. So it is a challenge in terms of steering. We cannot close the booking classes fast enough on certain O&Ds.
Aboudy, what are your views on continuous pricing, and how can an airline like Oman Air absorb it?
So we don't do continuous pricing.
I know, but how you will in future.
But look, coming out of COVID was really interesting, and I don't think anybody could have predicted what we're seeing in the market today. Everyone's thought premium traffic's going to die. Actually, premium traffic is stronger than economy traffic. Everyone thought, you know, people are going to take time to get back. No, we're absolutely full to the brim. Online sales booming because everyone's used to Zoom and being online and working from home. But the hardest thing is revenue management, because you rely on forecasts, and if your forecasts are wrong, you cannot continuous price, you can't do anything interesting. And unfortunately, because there's been such a fundamental shift in the way that people are booking, and forecasting and all these great expensive systems rely on historical data, well, let me tell you this, that's all out the window, right? It is now day-to-day management until we start to get a clearer picture. And there's no guarantee we're going to go back to standard patterns. You know, it could be changing dynamics into the future, and so that's where we'll look to our friends to the right here to try and help solve that problem.
Yeah, I mean, hard to say, but COVID did well for us because it kind of invalidated all the models that we use until now. You know, you look at COVID and the demand will show you demand for March, where everything is closed, there's not an airplane in the sky. And one of the things that we are doing, because we're coming from the financial markets, actually one of the advantages of these methodologies is that it adapts quickly. So it adapts to new market dynamics, it picks up changes, and it accordingly changes the pricing.
Yeah. I hated COVID and I see no advantages of it, but I get your point. Jonathan, continuous pricing, what are your views on that?
So it's interesting. I mean, we've just come on stage after the gentleman from Pros was on stage, and it was interesting, you know, seeing him talk about it. And the continuous pricing algorithms that a number of airlines have, they still need a way for you to deliver that to the customers, to travel sellers. And so we've been working with a number of our airlines, Lufthansa Group in particular, about actually bringing it to life. We have a couple of POCs ongoing with a number of airlines around willingness to pay and around total offer optimization, where ultimately you'll get to a point where an airline can optimize the total value that the customer is willing to pay based on the data and based on the availability of product. But there's still a way for us to go there. And in the last couple of years during COVID, what a lot of our airlines have been doing is challenging us as a partner as well to ensure that we'll be able to, as demand comes back, they can start to take advantage of that.
Thanks. Well, we're coming right up to the end, and I'd like to go through the panel. And Paul, I'll start with you, and you guys have the advantage to think about it. We'll go from right to left. Predictions on anything we've discussed in 30 seconds. What do you think?
I mean, look, the tech space, it's evolving every 6 months, if not shorter. You know, the areas we really want to develop over the next probably 6 to 12 months is bundles. I think we've talked extensively about it on the ancillary offering. I think we are seeing our ancillary per pax growing in line with our fares, you know, but I think there's much more we can do in terms of being a lot more granular. It's just we don't have the technology available to us today in the ancillary space. So I think building out on that is an area AirAsia is certainly keen on. And it's just probably building in terms of the progress we've made, in terms of the real-time revenue management we've already implemented. So I think, you know, the models need continuous training. Will this compressed booking curve stay forever? Don't know. So when that booking curve eventually becomes further out again, those models are going to have to be retrained again. Yep. So I think it's a continuous process, but I guess time will tell.
Yep. And I'll jump to Arvid. Your predictions, if any.
So I know that I don't know enough about it. So that's a good starting point, maybe, and that I also need to learn more about it, because I think it's evolving so fast And we know it is important to stay on course, to make a decision what is important for us and what is not important for us. I think we need the clarity, and every airline needs to find that, to say, that is noise, let's ignore it, and that is important, let's focus on that. So otherwise, we cannot entertain every development, because that's impossible to do. And we need a clear focus, and we need to simplify things. It's already complex enough. So RM is a huge area, and it's maybe a really complex area, to create those models. But right now, I mean, quite honestly, I have fun with the colleagues and our partners at Jeddah Airport. We are installing now cameras at the gate, and when the aircraft comes on block, the cameras film it, it gets translated into a numerical system, and we can monitor what happens around the aircraft, and we create a digital twin. It's great. 5 years ago, we would not have done it, and we understand how its operation works, and how can we jointly improve and focus on. So it gives you more information to become better, but I just know that I don't know enough.
Yeah. Aboudy.
So I love all the stuff these guys are doing. I think the AI is at its infancy, but it can do a lot. But I was fortunate enough a couple of weeks ago to have a one-to-one presentation with one of the ChatGPT online API partners who, I saw the future, let me tell you that. And the future isn't just about what it can do in bits and pieces. I think the future is how AI gives you big answers. How do I improve my customer service at Oman Air? That is the sort of answer that the ChatGPT is going to be able to give us. And you know what? That's great news, because it helps me in my decision making, and more importantly, it means I don't need consultants.
Yeah. Jimmy.
So the AI race is on, and I think that the airlines, again, with the time, more and more decisions will be taken, not guided, taken by AI. And I think that airlines that will embrace and adopt and be innovative and will adopt the technologies first will prevail, and the ones that will not will just not survive. They don't have a chance. That's my opinion.
Thanks. Jonathan.
And to continue that theme that Shimi was saying, the airlines that evolve into retailers will be the ones that survive and thrive, and the ones that don't, that just remain as service providers, will not.
Yep. Well, thank you to the panelists. Round of applause for them.
Thank you very much.
And I'll introduce our next panel host, Mushini Kuotonia, who will be hosting a panel in diversity.
Thank you.
Thanks, Otto.
Thank you. Thank you.